going on?
What's
So
going
what's
on,
up?
Mr. Porter? How's everything going?
Going good, man. Going good.
Good, good. I hope everybody's doing good today. Today's going to be a shorter show. We're just going to have a general panel discussion on topics in the world. We were supposed to have our guest today, Brandy Webster, but she actually got sick over the past couple of days and couldn't do it. So our prayers go out to Brandy. Hope everything happen, recovery goes well for her, and we definitely will be having her on the show in the near future when she's healthy and ready to go. So on that note, like I said, general panel discussion, things going on in the world or in our cities. So the first thing I'm gonna start off with is your thought on the guy that shot up the massage parlors. Do you think that it was a act of racism, or do you think he was just having issues and dealing with some things mentally, and it made him go off?
Oh, you want to start, Wells?
I can start that off. Yeah. Um, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I actually did a news cleanse for about a month prior to now. So I was totally in the dark on everything, and then I got back on the news cycle, and this was the first thing that happened. I was like, "Well, okay, this is interesting." Um, so quite a way to start the week, but yeah, it's obviously the way I approach this is that you know the case is still working itself out. We're still trying to get ideas of the motives, of this, that, or the other. At the end of the day, the way I look at it is this: you got people dead, and that really, to me, is what matters most. Um, I'm gonna leave the assuming of judgment calls or of saying, "Oh, is this racist act? Is it not?" I think race has to do with it, yes, but I want to be very careful and I making sure that everything we get a good idea of exactly what this shooter's mentality was, because this person might very well have been on something, might have very well it very well might be racism. Um, at the end of the day, it's unfortunately another continuation of just more and more tragedies. Um, and again, I'd hopped on the news. I had done a news cleanse before this, and this was my first one. Um, I personally have a family member of mine who is Asian, so that really hit close to home. And worrying about them when they go out, and trying not to, put that on them, so to speak. Um, but yeah, it's a really sad case. It's very disturbing. Um, and I unfortunately I think that the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I think that racism might have very had well to do with it as well as other external factors that we might not be aware of at this time. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's tragic and just unfortunately a continuation of a news cycle that has continued since 2020. So I guess 2021 is 2022.0, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, it's really unfortunate. It's very sad, and I hate it for everybody involved. I hate it for the officers who had to respond to that, because that it's a no-win situation, right? I'm sure we can all agree that regardless of what happened, that it's a tragedy, and everybody involved, um, from those who are now dead, their families, the shooter, those responding. It's not a good situation, and I just hope that in all of this, the news cycle that does cover it, you know, understands the kind of human nature of all this, right? We're all flawed in one way or another, and kind of at least I hope respects the families of those mourning, um, because it's a tragedy. But yeah, I'm really interested to hear y'all's thoughts on all of it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give my thoughts, and you kind of hit it. You kind of hit a few that I kind of agree with, but I have so many different ways that I think about this situation. But for one, whenever it's like a mass shooting of this type, whether it's racially motivated or anything, one of the first things that I feel like gets forgotten is the actual people that were killed. So it's like,
Right.
you know the, there's so much focus on the actual shooter that it's like you forget about these Asian people who had
Mm.
lives to live. They were all becoming somebody. And they were a daughter, they were a son, they were, what I'm saying, they were a mother, a father, they were somebody to their job, somebody to their community, and it's just a shame because it's like all of that gets pushed aside, and everything goes, and I get it, because a there is a problem, from when you have, like a Caucasian person who goes in and who has a firearm of some type. This is always, what I'm saying, this is always the type of case, because it's just like it's always just focused on just that individual in their race, but then it's just like, okay, but we need to talk about how, what I'm saying, the type of people that were killed and the careers that they had in front of them, so it's just like,
Right.
as soon as it happens, it's just like, oh, we're all focused on the shooter, we're all focused on the shooter, we're all focused on the shooter. And I get
Right.
that. Like, I get that, and people should be upset. Like, people should definitely be upset. But let's not forget, what I'm saying? Let's not forget about the people that he killed,
Right.
And my thing is, and people of color, people, and even people, Caucasians, everyone just want people who do things like that to be held accountable. That's it. Held
Right.
accountable by the same standard as everyone else in the world.
Hmm.
Oh, just held accountable at the same type of standard. So it's just like, you know, for example, what I'm saying, if you have like a George Floyd or somebody, and you see how his situation turned out, a Tamir Rice, and it's just like, and that's saying, and we're not saying that like you got to actually do harm to these people, but in some people's minds, they're kind of fed up where it's just like, well, hey, they can't be why they can't be handled in the same situation like we get handled in the same, and I understand that to the point
Right.
too. I understand that, but it's just like, we just want them to be handled the same way that we get handled, or people of color get handled when a certain situation presents itself like that. So it's just like,
Sure.
and then you see when these shooters, like, when they go and they do these mass shootings, they come out, they're arrested, unarmed, what I'm saying, unharmed,
Hmm.
and they're walked, gently to the police car, and nothing really, they don't get beat up, they don't get one scrape on their face. They're able to just like they're able to actually talk to the police officer, and it's just like, you kind of and I know everybody has different opinions, but it's just like, and you talk to people of color, and they're not, what I'm saying, if they get pulled over for something, it's you,
Hmm.
they're just trying to make it out alive,
Sure.
unharmed, what I'm saying, of anything. And so pretty
Right.
much it comes down to me. It just comes down as to accountability, man. Like really accountability, and letting these people know that as well. You need to put more. You need to put more when a situation like that present itself. Actually, put some more focus into the people that actually deceased. Because it's
Sure.
just like, I haven't heard. I mean, I've been watching the news a little bit here and there, seeing stuff on social media, but I haven't really seen anything on the names of, like, the people who died, or anything like that. I've only just been hearing about the shooter, and that's unfortunate in this world. but it's just but the media knows that's what that kind of drives stories. That's what drives stories when you talk about, I guess, the actual shooter of who does these things. So, but yeah, I don't know if you had any insight on that as well, Phil.
Um, the one thing that comes to mind to actually kind of add to what you just said is the Philando Castile murder. Um, he basically had no chance from the beginning. Um, I mean, it went from being a traffic stop to shooting a man multiple times in a car with a baby sitting behind him. You
Mm,
know,
yeah,
I can care at this point for me as much as I care about the man. I think I might care about the baby a tad bit more.
yeah,
Um, even though he had no reason to get shot, but the cop had no reason to shoot him or shoot at him with not only his girlfriend or wife, because I don't know exactly the facts there, but that was in the car with him along with the baby in the back seat. Like so you could shoot one person, you put two other lives at risk,
right,
you know, and for me, it's like you couldn't even think about the baby in that instance. Like you just, from the beginning in your mind was like, okay, shoot first, figure it out later, you know. And it's crazy because there's one line that we actually said in our one of our productions. We were doing a lot of these like activist productions that we do, and basically cops think this way: I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So what that means is I'd rather go to court. I'm either going to jail or I'm getting set free, which probably 95% means I'm going to get set free. As opposed to 6 of my colleagues that got to carry me, to my gravesite. They'll rather shoot and kill, before being shot. And I understand to a degree that thought process, because anybody retaliating in that instance would think, I'm doing what I can to get out this situation. That's if you're in a situation. That cop
right,
wasn't in a situation. It was no reason for him to shoot that man, especially with 2 innocent bystanders in the car with him.
right,
So the one thing that I've always said in these situations is, how is it that you feel like you don't have the time to have a thought process of what's the best thing I can do in this situation? When you're the cop, you're in control of the time. So if you want to have somebody just sit there for 30 minutes and go through their car for no reason and say go home, you can do that. And I'd rather you do that than just shoot somebody just because, you know. And somebody said the other day, something happened. Oh, with the what we were just talking about, and they were saying that New York was sending a lot of police officers and people like that to protect the Asian community. And they said, well, why don't you do that for black people? And I laughed. I said, because those same people that they send into Asian communities are the same people that black people are running from. I said, how are you gonna send the people who are doing these crimes, regardless of the race? It's been, multiple people outside of just Caucasian people who have been included in these situations here that are in the police force. So, it's like, how are we supposed to be protected ourselves if the people that's supposed to be protecting us are the same people who are trying to kill us? And then they wondering why the past couple of weeks some of these cops have just been shot, point blank, with no problem, because a lot of people are getting tired of it.
yeah,
You know, they're getting tired of having to get on the news and see another black man or black woman brutally beaten for no reason, you know. I can understand if this dude was trying to get your gun, trying to, threaten to kill you in some way or something like. I can understand that in anybody's situation. But when you got somebody that's just sitting in their car, George Floyd, Philando Castile, you know, um,
Yeah, all
Terrence
too.
Sterling being on a bike, and it's like that don't even make no sense. I can understand when your life is threatened to make these decisions. Anybody in those situations would probably go to that if they had to.
Right.
But when you have multiple options, and like I said, police, what they don't understand is that they control the situation. Because most of us aren't going to put ourselves and anybody else that we're with in a position where
Mm-hmm.
they're, in danger, I'm in danger, you know, and so all they got to do is do their job. You stopping somebody to give them a ticket, let them go. You ain't got to do extras and add to it and make it some big old deal for no reason. So,
And I'll say this too. It's not it's not all police officers, but the thing is, it's the like how you say when you got the bad apples and you got the good apples.
right,
In this instance, the bad apples they sure outweigh the good apples, which makes it really seem that way, and it's been that way for decades. And the thing is, you have good police good police officers that won't speak up because like in the police force, like they seem to have a code, like they seem to have a code themselves,
right,
just like how you might hear like when they say, oh, you're not supposed to tell on, you're not supposed to snitch on anybody or anything like that. I think they have a code themselves in the police force. And the thing is, if you are have some type of religion, I feel, and practice some type of religion, whether you're Christian, Catholic, Muslim, and you know the right thing to do, and you're in that police force, and certain decisions can save people's lives, I feel like you have to step up, or if you don't, like you pretty much just as bad as the rest of them, you know. So, but yeah, the country needs a lot of prayer, definitely. Um, but and then again, it kind of goes back to as well, like individual states, as far as like certain laws being passed within certain states and stuff like that. So like we just gotta work on that as well. And one thing I will say about COVID in the midst of all of this too, and I don't think it's really gotten talked about by the media, and that's why I kind of get you, Will, when you say you took a break from it, from like the news and stuff, because it's needed. Oh, I know it's needed. It really is. But the thing is, I feel like they took away is that you saw a lot of white and black people come together during this time of during the pandemic. And then when you saw a lot of this, it's just like you saw like every 3 or 4 months you would see like the media try to stir up another story of something here, another story of something there, and it was and then like right when everybody was like coming together, it gets broken apart again. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, dang, it's like they really don't want everybody to be together as one. So but what I'm saying, we know, like, here us and like the supporters that that support us, that watch this show, just got to keep on praying and believing that things will change. There unfortunately there are you know evil minded people out there that's gonna always be there. But we just got to do our parts individually, because we you know what I'm saying, I can't, what I'm saying, Phil can't save everybody. Wills can't save
Really?
everybody. I can't save
Phil,
everybody.
you can't save
Well,
everybody?
Nah, man.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
dang it.
my arms aren't that long, so I can't get to everybody.
yeah, but what we can do is we can have conversations, and hopefully this conversation can go on to somebody else, which can go on to somebody else, and hopefully change up some things. But I
Right.
understand. I definitely understand the new media cleanse, because like I really like on the TV, like I really don't watch the news like that, like
Yeah.
unless it's like for the weather or like for sports. But like yeah, most of the time I get news because it's blowing up all over like your phone,
Hmm.
so it's like it's like it's
Yeah.
right there, like you see stories, and then people, and then nowadays, and then that's why I feel a lot for the children that grow up in this day and age, because it's just like, man, it's almost like they can hardly stay focused, because it's like, it's so many stories, back to back to back. I mean, back when like when I was in high school, middle school, and stuff like that, there were stories, but I wasn't, connected to social media and stuff like that. It wasn't like that in the early 2000s and stuff. So, but now, geez, like
Yeah.
I can only feel for, like, how a kid feels during this time, trying to stay focused, in
Right.
school, because so much they got to do in school, and then you got the kids are in school, and then the teachers come to school, and they're talking about the stuff that they see on the news. So then it's just like the kid goes from hearing it at home, and then they go to hearing it in the street, and then they go to hearing it at school. So it's just like they can't get away from it. So that's definitely unfortunate. But like I said, we just got to be able to do our job. Just do what we're supposed to be doing, and continue to try to spread positivity and kindness and love as much as we can. And
Right.
hopefully that can hopefully, you never know, it can change the next person's way of thinking.
Right.
So, but yeah.
No, I love what you said. I think something that comes to mind for me whenever something like this happens, um, is to think of, okay, during all this craziness, 2020 was nuts.
It was.
2020 was crazy. And hold on one second. One sec. Sorry. One of my folks just texted me. One sec.
No problem.
On the phone. There we go. Hold up. I'm back. There we go. Sorry about that. Something I think about is, and it's helped me a lot, is what can I control? Because like you said, you can't control other people. You can to an extent, but you can't. And so focusing on what you can control and what you do have influence on, and being able to recognize that, and also, like you said, man, pushing the positivity, because between 2020 and 2021, I feel like if it's needed, if it's ever been needed, now's the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we have so much going on. You mentioned COVID as well. I mean, I'm doing all my schoolwork remotely, and I'm in grad school.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine being the teachers, being these elementary and middle and high schoolers that are like, am I going back to class? Am I not going back to class? Do I have the ability to do online? Am I just going to cut it quits and just do online? And then you start talking about, okay, well, these elementary school kids, big reason for school is to socialize with people. But how do you learn social skills when you're not socializing with anyone because of the pandemic? It's like there's so many different challenges that it brings about, that it's not because of any one person's fault, so to speak. It's just the situation that's presented itself. And it's in a hyper polarized environment, and it's an issue comes up, and all of a sudden it's everybody goes to their sides rather than just saying, hey, what happened? yeah, that was okay. All right, let's talk about it. You know, people don't do that anymore. You know,
Yeah, that's a big thing is that people don't talk about it.
yeah,
And I think that's part of the reason why,
Right.
uh, like when we do our productions and stuff, the good thing about it for us is those people who watch our shows don't have an option basically to get up and leave. So
yeah,
you either, I mean, everybody has an option, obviously, but you can get mad, throw a fit, and leave, and everybody stare at you while you acting a fool, or you sit there and take what we give them. See, the thing is, when you at home watching TV, you easily turn the channel. I don't want to watch this, or
Right.
I don't care about this, you know. And for us, basically, the way we give what we're putting on stage is, yeah, you can change your channel at home. You can't change it here. It's the only channel that's going to be on here. So you're going to have to take what we're about to give you. And it's crazy because I remember the first production that I did, the first play I did with this group was in 2018 in Arizona. And so I had a political science class with a couple of people that was in theater from the past year. And so 2017, they had went to Arizona for the same competition. And all I kept hearing was how everybody in the stand in the theater were crying and boo-hooing and talking about how they didn't know that the things that they were given basically on stage were happening in our areas, because the first play that they did was called Never Be What They Said, was basically kind of letting people know how us as minorities live in South LA, what we go through and stuff like that. So we take something like this to somewhere like Arizona, it's going to open a lot of eyes, And
right.
so I remember when we went in 2018 and we did the first original play that we did was called the Thread, because we renamed the same thing from the one we just did, the Thread, as well. But I remember when we went out there and we performed, it was probably maybe about 3 minutes into a 15-minute play, and people were crying already. And the reason why I remember it, because I remember I almost ended up breaking character. Anybody that's in theater, acting, anything knows you never break character. And I'm sitting there, and in my mind, I'm rolling, like I'm laughing so hard because I'd heard all these stories and stuff about the previous year, and in my mind, I'm like, they wasn't crying. I mean, stuff going all over the news, but people, 90% of the stuff that we deal with in South LA, people getting shot, robbed, or whatever. But by the time we finished, the whole audience, bro, were boohoo crying, tears, because most of them are, theater students or professors or something. Most of them from schools up north, or Arizona, Utah area, Nevada, I think South Nevada, so they not used to seeing, basically what we gave to them. And it was crazy because I remember after the fact how many people came up to us and was basically like apologizing, and like, because they didn't know. And I mean, when you think about it, you go, how do you not know? Like, y'all watch the news, but then you think, obviously, if it's not happening, something that's national, then a lot of these other places aren't going to see it unless somebody shares it on Facebook, Instagram, something like that, And so I think it actually turned me into a better actor, because even though I was already taking what I was doing seriously, it made me kind of take it to another level, because I understood more what we were giving to people, and we were giving them a truth that they didn't know about. And so that was a really crazy situation for me, because Like I said, to just see a bunch of people, booing. Like went to Fullerton, which is in California, last year, for the play we did called Criminal, and it was more than just white people crying this time. It was literally everybody that was there, and we did 3 shows back to back to back in one night, and each show had about 100 people in it, and the stories that we got from, because we always do like Q&A after, and so the questions and the stories that we got from the audience were like, it was one dude, he was white, but you can tell he kind of grew up in a minority neighborhood, and so he was, I mean, boohoo crying, and I'm like, something happened with this dude. Like before he even started talking, and he was like, I'm from Chicago. And he's like, I've been kind of through the South a lot in my life, and I lived in a lot of areas. And he said, I didn't know that this happened to a young boy at 14 years old. We did a play that was focused around Emmett Till, and he was like, I had no idea that this happened, where I lived and where I grew up at. And so he was like, yeah, like that. He was like, that hit home for me because, like, I guess he lives like out in this area now, but and then one other lady, she was a young adult. She had a friend. I think she was white, but her friend was black, and her friend got shot in front of her, in front of their house by the police. So, one thing I try to tell people is that, us as African Americans might go through this a tad bit more than the other races, but it still happens to everybody. Some of the stuff doesn't get put out on the news, or it gets put somewhere deep, very deep into a newspaper somewhere where you don't never see it, because 9 times out of 10, most people read a newspaper, get halfway and fold it up and throw it in the trash. So, people need to learn how to take these things into consideration. That it may be happening a lot to us, but there's a lot of things happening to every other type of race in this world, where it just kind of sticks with that race, and they go through these things on a regular basis. Yeah, it may not be the same as getting shot, being killed, your family's being ripped apart, somebody going to jail for something they didn't do or something like that, but everybody deals with something, and so that's kind of what my main thing when it comes to the race thing and issues in the world is also think about the other people. They go through some things as well. Like I said, it might not be on the same level as us as mine, some other races go through and things of that nature, but we all go through something, so that's why when unfortunately it had to take for George Floyd to get murdered, when all these people came together for one person, protesting and things of that nature, to me, it made me feel proud because it's okay. Well, maybe there's a change happening somewhere. It's not going to be a change that everybody can see, it's a 360 change or anything like that, but it's a change that's needed, where us as a nation, as a people, could come together to fight for something that we believe in fighting for. So, did you guys have anything else you want to touch on that?
Well, what's the other thing? I'm in the process. I think I was talking to you about this, Phil. I'm in the process of possibly changing one of my immunosuppressant drugs. So, Wills, you probably know about Prograf, right?
Yep.
I'm in the process of switching off of that. It's called I don't know if you ever heard of Envarsus. Envarsus XR is like it's rapid release, so it releases faster than Prograf, but I only had to take it once a day. So, and the reason I'm choosing to switch off of it is because of the side effects and quite possibly the long term down the road side effects of possibly leading to like diabetes, because like prograf has been linked to like high blood sugar and to lead into diabetes, because like I don't want to get diabetes, and then diabetes leads to um renal failure, so then it's like I'll be back in my old situation. And it's just like, like if I can, I mean, I know they say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But in this case, I might have to make an exception. And I do, like, I monitor when I check my lab. I checked my labs a couple days ago, and I was checking like my blood sugars and my cholesterol, and everything was seeming to be good. But it's just like the side effects of Prograf. Is everybody's different. For me, sometimes it can be a little bit unbearable, but my doctor, she's like, she's messing around with different dosages and stuff like that. So trying to lower me, and this is what I would say to people out there is just if you got questions about your medications, like ask them, like just ask them, like don't feel like you're asking a dumb question or anything like that. Just ask anything because that's your transplanted organ. And, if you feel a certain way, like to speak up, because it's funny because like my nephrologist, like the team at at Georgetown, they used to get on me because they're like, your appointments last a little bit longer than they should, and I'm just like, yeah, because I'm asking all my questions, and I'm gonna ask all my questions because it's my
Right.
insurance. My insurance is the one that's paying for this, so like, hey, like I'm gonna ask every question that I can. It's my health, it's my kidney. So what they say,
Right.
my kidney is my life or something. So like, like definitely.
Quote of the year: "My kidney's my life." I love
Right.
it.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah,
Right.
it's about being proactive at the end of the day. You are the person that's going to fight for your kidney. Can't nobody else can really do it for you. Or liver or heart or whichever transplant you have. And so I always think of, and it actually took me a while. So I'm not going to say it like I've always thought this, but being proactive may be tied with compliance.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you can do all the things of being compliant, make sure you got the appointments, do your meds on time and all that stuff. But if you aren't letting the doctors know, hey, when I took this medication, I endured this pain or this side effect or whatever, hey, can we, is there possibly another medication that I can take in place of XYZ that does the same thing without the side effects?
Yeah.
Or can we see about changing the doses or whatever the case may be? So, the proactiveness comes with being compliant as well. You're just not one or the other. It kind of has to be both for you to keep going, and keep fighting. So, um, yeah. What was I about to say?
I,
So,
I
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, never, never adjust your medications on your own. That could be like the, I've read stories about that. People try to adjust, their medications on their own. Like that's like the wrong thing to do. And yeah, just like Phil said, like that was really good. As far as like being, what I'm saying, like on a preventative side and stuff like that, and just being compliant. Because once you start feeling a certain way on a medication, you don't want to just be like, okay, I'm not going to tell the doctor, and I'm just not going to take my medication. Like you still have to be compliant to some point, and take it, as they order, because they have, their best interest at hand. So, you know, definitely agree with that.
So I'm gonna touch on something. I said we're gonna keep it short so we can end on this subject. I know that Austin was a big part of fighting for the immuno bill. So um, my question for both of you is, because the immuno bill really doesn't go into effect for I think another 2 years.
2 years.
Um, what do you recommend, or if you even have a thought about that, or you can touch where you want to touch about the immuno bill itself, how certain people will go about their insurance, and if there's some uh, um, rejection meds that may cost less that kind of still do the same as the rest. I know some are different from others. Um, anything like that that has to do with the time between now and when that goes into effect, of how people can kind of keep things steady on the financial side to it.
Well, I can. You want to answer first, or Will? Or is Will still on?
You
Or
might be answering the text messages. Go ahead.
now, I was gonna say because one of the first things I was gonna mention was making sure you stay in touch with your social worker, like throughout that whole thing, because like they're the ones that are supposed to help as far as like retrieving all that information that has to deal with Medicare and Medigap and Medicare Part D, which is the prescription drug plan for Medicare, and uh, just all the different type of resources, because there's so many different types of for low income people, like prescription resources out there that you just
Mm-hmm.
have to Google and do your research on and find out about, because sometimes you might think you have a commercial insurance that may cover a certain medicine, and it probably will, but then sometimes you have jobs where it's just like you got to meet a certain deductible before it's even covered, and sometimes that deductible can be like $2,000, and then you
Right.
think about, what I'm saying, you get a transplant right now. Well, no, say you got a transplant like a couple years ago, and it's like your Medicare is about to run out. That new immuno bill doesn't kick in until 2023. So now you got to find other resources now to cover for your medication once that Medicare runs out, because like, and I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a wonderful super bill that got passed, for anybody that's going to be getting transplants from here on out, and for anyone who has received a transplant. But yeah, like I said, Phil, like I would definitely stay in touch with any type of social worker that you can, because they are definitely, and Wills could probably speak more on this too, because they are. I know when I was at Children's Hospital, my social workers were one of the first few people that kind of gave me the insight on like what to do when certain insurances ran out, or if like my income went up and stuff. And you know what what I always thought about this was that I always kind of felt that as a transplant recipient, if you had Medicare while you were on, because I had Medicare when I was on dialysis, and I feel like if you've had Medicare, that you should have Medicare for the rest of your life, because it's like we got to deal with, like, what I'm saying, like if I get the flu and my flu gets a little bit, what I'm saying, and with my immune system, because I take immunosuppressant drugs, so it's like I'll catch the flu worse than somebody else, than a regular person. Like we get sicker, worse than anybody else. So my thing is now, like I have to come out of pocket, like if I go to the emergency room or something from my commercial insurance, and as far as like if I was on Medicare, the whole thing will basically be covered. And that's what I'm saying, like us as transplant recipients, we're more at risk for catching things. So it's just like, why not just like just keep us on Medicare forever, and but then there's a lot of political things in the government, as far as it's like, I get the certain standard where it's like, you get a transplant, you're able to go back to work and things like that. So, and then I'm saying, I kind of get it at that level too. But if you wanted to answer some more on that, Will.
Yeah. I first of all, the fact that the immuno bill was even passed is incredible.
Yeah. Right.
I'm actually monitoring some legislation over here on another front, but specifically for individuals with disabilities and their ability to get transplants. If anyone's familiar or lives in Georgia or can look it up, there's currently a law that has been proposed. I believe it passed the Georgia State House. It is onto the Georgia State, the General Assembly and the Senate. It's referred to as Gracie's Law. But again, y'all can look that up. It's just something on the side. But with regard to the immuno bill, I think, something else, Austin, you mentioned about that it's supposed to, help you get on your feet and be more of a assistance, if you will, to help you, hoping that you're able to get a job, right? And so,
Right.
Insurance doesn't want to have to be covering you for forever, if you can, for the Medicare, Medicaid, whatever it might be, because I know there's like an income cutoff, et cetera. But even with that, like the way that some companies hire aren't that great. Like, how many of us are going to go around in our workplace and say, yes, so we had a transplant.
Right.
You're gonna be like, okay, bye now.
We
don't care if you're great. We're not hiring you. Why? I'm the best qualified person. We don't care. We don't want to have to pay for you.
Right.
Really? Do you know my capabilities? Do you know what I'm still able to do? Just because I had a transplant doesn't mean I'm not capable.
Right.
And I think that is just as important as it is that legislation be passed, that social workers and even us as patients be aware of, copay programs. I know there's a Astagraph XL card. I have a ProGraph copay card, so that helps me with the payment. But doing the research yourself, or if you don't have time, go to the people that are those resources. So your social workers, going to the National Kidney Foundation or some group of people that can help you out with that. I would have to read into the legislation a little bit more. So I want to be really careful in not really speaking to something I don't know about. I would have to read into it more as far as, if there's maybe, let's say, a grandfather clause, if you will, or something that's embedded into this legislation that assists those patients to get them to that point, right? Like you mentioned, you might be in this in-between time where you're not good for a year, but you're good for next year. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure we all know a whole lot can happen for your health, good or bad, in 1 year. Right.
Right.
And so I would have to do more deep digging to see if there's something that is like that exists. And if not, then by all means, I think that is something that should be floated out there to help carry those people over, because, getting a transplant should be the start of your new life.
Yeah.
Not the start of a time clock. Right. And so, especially with, how difficult it can be to go through this transplant process, not to mention that for a lot of these organs, somebody has to unfortunately pass away for you to get that organ. And so, what are we as a country saying to people who are getting transplants? Honor the, gift of life is great, but only for 3 years.
There you go. Yeah. That's the truth.
Like, pretty certain it's all the time. And for anyone who is maybe new to this, the legislative policy group that started pushing, I believe, was called Honor the Gift Coalition. And I know Why Not played a really big part in getting that passed, and that's just the start of it. I think there needs to be a lot more legislation, just as we were talking about the stuff with the race relations and working on really bettering our communities. It starts with us, right? And so if we see that there's something out there and we see injustice, or we see we see an area that could maybe be implemented to improve the current situation, right? We need to be the ones to have the courage to step up and say something. And we also need to have I think we also need to have open ears to hear from people who are experiencing these things, whether it be racial trauma, whether it be a medical challenge, even not transplant, cancer, you name it, because the people that have lived it are the ones that know it the best, right? And so we need to learn from them. And then we also need to make sure that, specifically with transplant, maybe you don't have a transplant, but you know someone who does. Making them aware of this. Maybe they think, oh yeah, I'm covered, but actually no, there's an in-between time, and encouraging them to learn more about how they can be covered. It starts with us, and I'm trying to get connected with one of my state reps out here to really do what I can to push this legislation for Gracie's Law, because this gets into a whole nother issue. Not to expand too much on it, but basically there was a family, I believe their young daughter had autism or something related to it. Thankfully did not need a heart transplant, but through all that process basically learned that there had been cases around the country where there had been lawsuits or something to the effect of it against hospitals for discrimination based on disability. This has happened, I believe, I'd have to recheck again, but I believe 9 states for certain, and maybe 10, but I know 8 or 9 for certain. California has a law, Maryland has a law. I know Missouri specifically, and a few others. And right now there's legislation pending that in multiple states, including Texas and Georgia, along these similar lines. California was the first law, I believe. Uh, their law was passed in 1996, and a lot of the states that have adopted this types of legislation regarding this, a lot of it actually has been pulled from the 96 law. But yeah, just doing what you can do to educate yourself. I talk about all the time on my podcast and blog, be your own advocate. If there's something out there that you want to learn more about, go learn more about it. If it takes calling up your social worker or getting plugged into an organization that can help you with that, if you're here in Georgia, call the Georgia Transplant Foundation. They have medication assistant help. They have all sorts of different support things that they can do to help you out. Also academic scholarships. If you're a high school student out there, wanting to go to college or maybe get a technical education or a 2-year degree, check out GTF. They have some awesome scholarship opportunities. I've been blessed to have received a scholarship from them. And so, do what you can do, like what you were saying, Austin, be able to speak up for yourself. And at the end of the day, it comes back to me of being in control of what you're in control of. And starting locally, whatever that looks like, whether it be whatever the changes that you want to see for the good, being that force for change and being that positive face, because if 2020 and 2021 has showed us anything, is that we need it now more than ever. We need to have ears to listen, but we also need to have feet to act. And that's where it starts, and it starts with us.
Yeah, and those are all excellent point, Wills. And one thing I know I've talked to Phil a lot about is like I'm all for pushing to receive an organ transplant. It's a wonderful thing, living donation, all of that. But I feel like the back end of it it's like that fine print, like people don't tell you about.
Right.
It's the life, after. Just like how you said, like what I'm saying, you have copay cards for program. Nobody is telling you that when you first get your transplant, it's just all about the joy of getting the transplant. And I understand that it's a wonderful thing. You've been on dialysis, you've been a fighter on dialysis, and I get that. But like I'm always one of the ones that's just like people need to understand the truth. You know what I'm saying? That after you receive a kidney or any type of organ, after a certain amount of years, it's like it's kind of like a car loan, right? It's like it's like somebody's loaning you some money, then you got to start paying it back, right? So it's just
Yeah.
like that's it's and I feel like that part really gets forgotten about. So it's just like if um if anyone out there, regardless of what type of organ that you're waiting for, like I just feel like the questions that you have to ask is mostly, make sure you emphasize on life after transplant. What can I do with this kidney? What can I do with this heart? And like what are the extra resources presented to me? How does my insurance change now that I have a kidney and now that I'm not on dialysis? Because remember now, like a lot of organizations are making a lot of money off of Medicare, but by people staying on dialysis, like what I'm saying, that's a lot of money that go. When I used to look at my bills for uh for dialysis, doing it at home, man, it was like you had to be like a millionaire or something like to be on dialysis, like
Yeah.
for real, and like it was $100,000 like sessions and stuff, and it's just like wow, and when you get a transplant, like you feel better, like you have a better quality of life, but then it's just like you can't just be stuck in that moment of just like, oh, I got a kidney, I can drink more fluids, I can eat a better diet. Now it's like we get into the real stuff. So okay, like all right, now you can go back to work. Okay, now you can go back to school. If is there a business that you want to start? You know what I'm saying? Like you want to have a family. Like all of those different types of things, and financial financial stability is very big in life after transplant, that I feel like should be more explained to more patients who are waiting, and recipients, especially to like that age group of like 18 to 24, especially to them, because it's like they're just graduating high school, and they're going to college, they're finding different career paths. So it's like, you get a kidney transplant in college. I actually feel like those are you are at a really good advantage, because it's like hopefully when you get your transplant and you have your degree, you're able to go find that job now that has that really good health insurance that can, what I'm saying, that can cover you. And like I said, I'm thankful that me being a preschool teacher, that I'm able to have really good health insurance through the government. But it's not the same for everybody. It's not, everybody's not presented with the same situation, and it's, what I'm saying, it's unfortunate, because like you know everybody's goals are different. So it's like some people may be choosing to go to school, some people may not be choosing to go to school. They may just be wanting to just start their own business. But when you start your own business, that doesn't always come with your own insurance. So
Right.
you got to go and buy into it, which costs a lot. Because I know when like when I would be searching for a job, insurance was no question. That was the insurance was meant more to me than how much I made, actually.
Right.
Because I was just like,
Mm.
if the job doesn't have health insurance, like
It ain't for
it's
me.
like
Right.
what am I making so much money, and I can't even take care of myself to be able to see it. So it's like
Right.
you know
Something else to consider as well. You're talking about, for the patients and recipients, also for the donors.
yes, yeah,
There's a lot of legislation that's being pushed right now. I know the National Kidney Foundation, American Association of Kidney Patients, and I'm sure Why Not is on board on this as well. Is increasing those protections for donors, because why would you need to be, if you go to your employer, you're like, hey, so I'm going to be an organ donor. They're like, all right, cool. Go donate, but we won't guarantee your job will be here when you get back. Like,
or pay you.
What?
Yeah,
And I know that I forget what organization has it. It might be UNOS, but there's a really good. You can look it up. There's actually a map that I believe UNOS put out, or some organization that actually highlights U.S. based on color coding, like in its different shades of blue, and depending on how dark the shade of blue is, whatever state that is has the best. Basically rights and protections for organ donors. California has really great ones. Some states up north have really great ones. Florida is probably the best of all the southern states. The rest of them are kind of hit or miss. That's a whole nother area. The whole advocacy and really, making your voice heard. I think it gets back to what I was saying before. Being involved, like what we do with Why Not, in being that voice for change, because there's so much that needs to be done, and making sure that for those who need Medicare, who are put on it, making sure that they're able to enjoy their new life without having to stress about so many other things, right? And Medicare, Medicaid is just one of those pieces. Job reentry, again, Georgia Transplant Foundation, I believe, has a job reentry program. But looking it up and really helping people out who because sometimes I'm sure we've all been through things where we'll have a buddy or a friend or somebody, we'll hear a story from, and you'll be scratching your head. You're like, how do they not know about this resource? But again, you can't fault people for not knowing what they don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so true.
No, definitely.
Yeah, it's to kind of piggyback off what you were just saying about resources is that there are a bunch of them out there, but the thing about it, like, people will tell you, they don't mind telling you, like, hey, there's a resource out there for XYZ, but then they won't tell you how to get to that resource. And I think that's the issue, is that, it's great that you had a heart enough to even tell somebody about it, but don't just tell them about it. If they haven't gotten to it, it's the reason why they haven't gotten to it. So,
right.
Give them a passageway to get, even if you don't remember, stop for stop on how you got to that point. At least let them know, hey, so I remember I started here and I got referred to this or got transferred to that, and it led to this. And I don't remember exactly which way it went from here, but this is like the most important part to how I got to this resource, or how I got, we're able to get my meds paid for, or we're able to, keep food in my house, or help me get some, some money monthly or whatever to help me, sustain living, and stuff like that. So that's the biggest thing for me is, if you have a resource, and that's part of the reason why we do this show, is to get these resources and this information that people have, and that they use to be able to get them out of whichever situation it may have been, because there's somebody out there that is going through that same exact thing. Nobody goes through something that never happens again. It goes for illnesses, it goes for the work field, it goes for family. It's like all that stuff it's a revolving door of things that happen in the world. So somebody else is going to deal with that particular situation, more than likely sooner than later. So, like I said, that's the reason why, we're doing this show, is to get people's stories out there, the resources to help people, get out of the situations that they're in as best as possible. So, if you got a resource about something, let people know how to get to that resource. Don't just tell them the name of it. I think the state of Georgia.
DTF's website.
You said what now?
If you need any resources, check out the Georgia Transplant Foundation. I believe it's gtf.org, but if you type in Georgia Transplant Foundation, it'll take you to their site. They're great. I actually know some of the social workers out there, and they do really great work. So yeah, check out their website. I'm pretty sure their phone number um, is at the bottom of the site or somewhere on their page. So that's how you can use those resources. And if you need it, it's there.
And one I'll mention myself is it's called
Mhm.
Novartis Patient Assistance Program.
Yep.
Excellent program. And they have a list on there, and really nice and kind people that when you call, I mean they're wonderful people that answer the phone because they understand like the type of recipients, the type of patients that are calling for their services. And when you can actually go and look on their website, and it gives you a list of like all the immunosuppressant drugs that are covered through their services. So yeah.
Yeah, Novartis does really good work.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Cool. Well, I know I said 30, 45 minutes, but then we also knew it wasn't going to be in that time. So, you
Eh,
know, but
who's keeping track?
right. Unfortunately, I'm doing it without actually doing it because I'm the one with a clock in my face. So,
That's all good.
but no, definitely, Mr. Porter, I definitely appreciate you coming on with us
You
and
bet,
giving
man.
information and insight that you're able to give to us and the people today. Um, I was gonna have me and also make an announcement, but I think I'm gonna probably have us do it on Facebook Live probably tomorrow after we get some details squared away. Um, so please look out for that if you're watching this tomorrow, probably tomorrow night. Um, more than likely, it might be tonight, depending on how Austin is feeling. But I don't think it's gonna happen tonight, but we'll see. Um, definitely keep Brandy in your prayers, as well as all the ones that we've lost in the past months, that are transplant related, non-transplant related. A lot of them were young and didn't really get to see a lot of things that they were working towards manifest. And so definitely want to pray for those families, that are dealing with those situations right now. Families that have people in hospitals sick, going through illnesses. Pray for all transplant patients, anybody with life-threatening illness in the hospital, not in the hospital, just anybody. So we appreciate you guys for watching now, watching in the future, and we will see you next Sunday. I'm gonna let Mr. Lee tell you who we got coming on next Sunday.
Yes, Miss the wonderful, talented Miss Sharon Rouse of Kindness for Kidneys. She will be on next week. So make sure to tune in and also follow her on Facebook, Instagram. And make sure to follow Will's here on Instagram and Facebook. Will's, if you want to name drop a couple of yours too.
Yeah, I'll name drop a few. So on Instagram, if you go over and check out Impact America Media, you can find me on there. I'm also on Facebook, just under Wills Porter. You can also look up Operation Impact on Facebook. Actually, speaking of kidney health, I believe this month is still National Kidney Month. My internship project, which is Operation Impact, has a YouTube channel just called Operation Impact, and that is actually going to be a virtual webinar that we are recording. We're talking about everything from organ donation 101 to actually explaining and going in depth on the organ donation process. We're also having some really awesome community partners talking about the importance of kidney health. And the Why Not Foundation is also playing a very big role in this. They are actually the headline supporter of this program, if you will. And again, all of that information can be found on those social media platforms. I shared a good bit, but if you go to any platform, go check out the YouTube channel, Operation Impact.
I've posted a few update videos, but we're going to really start pushing a lot of content next month, given that next month is National Donate Life Month. And check out what we're doing, because we have partners. We have the Youth Needing Organ Tissue Transplants Foundation, who we're affiliated with. We have Steve Belcher and the Urban Kidney Alliance. We have the American Association of Kidney Patients. We have Lifelink of Georgia, Our Legacy, Florida, and the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, which are the OPOs in Georgia, Florida, and Louisiana, supporting us. And we also have a very big announcement for another OPO in the country who does incredible work. But again, that announcement will come next week, so y'all be on the lookout for that. We also have my good friend, Dr. Ken Sutha, who's a pediatric nephrologist out at Stanford. He is helping me out on this project. He and I go way back to the Transplant Games. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Y'all go check out what we're doing. It's really exciting work, and I'm just very blessed, honored and humbled to be in the position that I am, to be able to be on here with all y'all tonight, to discuss these many challenges we're going through in our country. And with Transplant, at the end of the day, I think if we can take anything from it, is that, have hope in what we're doing, continue doing what we're doing to spread awareness about transplant, while also being, a light in the darkness, if you will, to some of these situations. And really, the buck starts and stops with us. We're only going to see change if we ourselves are willing to step up and advocate for that change, whatever that change might be. And it starts with us, and I hope Operation Impact will really help make headway in that. And as far as everything else goes, let's keep our heads held high. Let's remember that we're not all perfect. People are going to make mistakes, and it's our job to make sure that we keep a calm head when other people around us.
Most definitely. So again, Mr. Lee, appreciate you. Mr. Porter, appreciate you. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Tonight. And like I said, next Sunday, same time. Same time. I was thinking about another guest that we had coming on where the time has changed. But next Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Next week, we'll be on YouTube and Facebook. We had some difficulties. We had to, couldn't figure out last minute. So for sure, Sunday we'll be back on my Facebook page as well as Austin's. And like I said, we'll be making an announcement possibly tonight, but if nothing else, tomorrow night for sure. So you guys have a wonderful and blessed night. Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
See y'all.